I am so sorry for what happened today, folks. I've known for a while that my internet connection is rather unstable, but as I think I might have mentioned to you all, I am in the process of moving. So Comcast has suggested that I just sit tight for the next week or so and just deal with it. Usually it comes back on pretty quickly, but today it took me many minutes to try to figure it out, and by that time, I thought that perhaps you all had lost your attention and probably had left the meeting, which is fully understandable. So, the bottom line is, it was rather important information that I was going to convey to you today. So, I am doing this video and it's going to be placed in course contents. And obviously, if you got to hear, you read my announcements and you know where it is. So anyway, here is the worksheet that we started to work on before I glitched out on you guys. So I had some of you all read some of it, and I'm just going to go over it really briefly again, and then we're going to go over a few exercises that we would have done together were the class to have gone as I had wanted it to. So the bottom line is what you're going to be doing for Wednesday is taking what you have as a thesis statement, and you are going to be creating an essay with that thesis statement in mind. So number one, you're going to know that this is a 5-paragraph essay, and we've already got down pat that means that you're going to have 3 blueprint points. And indeed, you do have yourselves a blueprint point thesis statement. That's what you worked on during discussions. So we have to fill in the missing info. Number one will be the preliminary information that you're going to want to put in your introductory paragraph. Remember, as I mentioned to you all, you don't want to just plunge in and have your reader read the thesis as the very first sentence. The thesis should be the last 1 to 2 to 3 sentences of your introductory paragraph. You can branch out from there and be more creative when we get a little bit more sophisticated. But for right now, we're using ourselves a formula, and that means that the thesis statement gets placed at the very end of the introductory paragraph. So that brings up the question, how do you start, right? So, as mentioned in the PowerPoint, you want to set the scene for the reader. And in your case, you're writing about yourself, your beliefs, your dimensions, what's terribly important to you, etc. So just provide a little bit of background biographical information about yourself. You might want to include your age. You might want to include what high school you came from. You might want to include how you came to be part of the early college program, etc. So any information that would naturally lead into the thesis statement. And that background information could be 3 to 5 sentences or so is sufficient. And then you transition into your thesis statement. Here are some beliefs that I believe are important for you to know. Here are some dimensions that make my life full. Here are some goals and aspirations I have. Here are the values, beliefs that are important to me, etc. Whatever makes good sense in terms of what blueprint points you ended up with. I'd like to share with you some background interests and information about me, right? That's an acceptable thesis statement too, especially since they're all going to be followed by your particular blueprint points, okay? And then the formula just takes off from there. Every single paragraph, in this case the 3 paragraphs, will begin with a topic sentence, and that topic sentence will reflect that blueprint point, a 1-for-1 correspondence. So if you've said career aspirations, interests and hobbies, family, traditions. So your first paragraph is going to be about your career aspirations. Your second paragraph is going to be about your hobbies and interests, and your third paragraph is going to be about family traditions. Then, within those paragraphs, you want to provide instances or examples. Now, listen up, folks. If one of your paragraphs is going to be about your ambition, say, to become a pediatrician, then there aren't going to necessarily be specific examples like they would be if you're talking about your hobbies and you say video games, and here are the video games I like, and here's how I like to play them, and here's who I play with, etc. Those details are more obvious to you. Now, if your body paragraph, as I said before, is about a particular career aspiration, then the details within the paragraph are things like how you came to think of that as your career. What do you hope to gain out of it as a career? Why do you think you chose it? Does it have to do with the fact that you love science? Does it have to do with the fact that you're very children oriented and you'd like to be able to provide health care to children, etc.? Correct? So the meat of the body paragraph is clearly very dependent upon what the topic is. If the topic lends itself to examples, if you say, hey, listen, I'm a sports fiend, and you want to give examples that you love basketball, football, baseball, soccer. But if your body paragraph is just about a particular career aspiration, then the meat of the paragraph is how that aspiration came to be, what it means to you, why you chose it, etc. Are you kind of getting that? So every body paragraph should be self-contained. You should be able to read it separately. You could pull it out of the essay and it would still make sense. Now, between body paragraphs, you might want to provide some transition for the readers. Something like, not only is career important to me, but family is as well. And then that would be the last sentence of a first body paragraph, and then the beginning to the next body paragraph could be, my siblings and parents mean the world to me. So you are easing your reader out of one topic and into another. Now, the other thing that we are going to go over is some do's and don'ts when it comes to thinking about your final blueprint points and what will be included within the body paragraphs. And what I intended to do with you guys is do a little bit of breakout so that you could work over this worksheet alone. But as it is, and as we got cut out and such, I'd like you to take a look at 1 through 6 and then think about, within those particular examples 1 through 6, what statement reflects what the blueprint point would be, and what are the other 2 statements that are details, examples, instances, further evidence for the blueprint point. And they're really rather evident, aren't they? And now that we're doing things this way, I'm just going to go through the answers as I would hope that you would have been able to identify for yourself. So in group number 1, it's clear that A is really the topic of the paragraph, correct? And B and C are pretty much just details that would flow within that. In group number 2, the primary point that's being made, as in the blueprint point for that paragraph, would be B, that the student lounge is not a good place for studying because both A and C are details. Are you getting that? Okay, and in 3, again, the main point is B, whereas A and C are details that support the main point that personal finance skills should be taught. And again, well, I didn't do too much of a good job in turning these around or making them random, because in 4, it's B once again, is it not, right? And A and C, again, are just examples and further details. And again, in number 5, it's B again. Boy, I do have to change this up so the answers aren't so obvious. Yeah, conditions are what we're talking about. So A explains specific conditions, and C explains specific conditions. And let's see. Finally, in number 6, C is what we're talking about as the main point, that chocolate has positive health benefits, and A and B are indeed details. So that's really what we were going to go over, folks, if my darn internet connection had not crapped out on me. So I'm going to end it here, and the announcements, may I remind you, also let you know that I am going to do a separate Zoom session tomorrow That would be Saturday, and I'm going to do it in the mid-morning. From 10 to 11, there's going to be a Zoom session. You certainly do not need to come. It is totally optional. But if there are particular questions you have about what would have been done today or about this particular worksheet, you're welcome in at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And here's hoping that my internet connection will